Part 68. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 676. Construction has started on the mountain in the tourist area. The tentative name of the tourist area is Longhuatui. As for how the Yeomanmen came up with this name, Han Qian couldn't figure it out. Isn't it too tacky? The leaders and several bosses at the Yeomanmen pretended to pick up a shovel and shovel a shovel of soil to signify the start of work. Han Qian was lying on the beach at the seaside wearing a safety helmet and watching their performance. He didn't quite understand the ceremony and even the incense burning. After everything was done, Cheng Jin hurried back to the Yamen gate because of Wen Nuan and Yates waiting for him at the Yamen gate to talk about land. Now even if he told Cheng Jin what the land was used for, he wouldn't be able to regret it. Luo Shen came over and lay down next to Han Qian without saying a word. Han Qian hurriedly sat up and frowned at Luo Shen, who said calmly while wearing sunglasses, "I can't walk for a long time, why didn't you just go over and take a photo?" Han Qian sat on the beach, lit a cigarette, and said calmly, "I can't make a penny in this mountain, so why should I join in the fun? I'm just a white-collar worker. I can't get along with a big boss like you." As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Shenga appeared behind Han Qian and smiled. "Han Qian, I realized that I still want to keep you. You have been helping me make money. You are such a good dog." Han Qian replied without turning his head. "I save the money for my son, but which wild father do you give the money to?" When the words came out, Luo Shen covered his stomach and laughed. Lu Shenga curled his lips, sat on the pony and lightly kicked Han Qian in the back and said calmly, "What's your next plan? How long are you going to play with this bitch? You've lowered the quality of our game." Han Qian turned around, frowned, and said calmly, "Do you have any opinion?" Lu Shenga quickly raised his hands and smiled. "How dare you, Mr. Han is a man of the hour now. He helped the eldest wife Wen Nuan win the Huishan group, and helped the younger wife Yan Qingqing win 13% of the shares of Glory. I can't afford to offend him." After finishing speaking, Lu Shenga turned to look at Luo Shen and said disdainfully, "What did you get, bitch?" Luo Shen looked at the sky and smiled. "I got a scene where I saw you being insulted. Tisk, 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 tisk. I didn't expect that young Master Lu would also be afraid of people. Unexpected. Very unexpected. Recently you are a bit like Lin Turtle, don't show your face, don't show up." Lu Shenga took out a cigarette and said calmly, "Take a few days to rest and see the situation in the city. For example, now, Bastard Lin is here." Luo Shen and Han Qian turned their heads and followed Lu Shenga's gaze at the same time. Lin Zongheng was indeed here, followed by more than a dozen people. Luo Shen was the first to lie down and continued to look at the sky. Han Qian lowered his head and played with the sand. Lu Shenga saw this asked, "Aren't you two looking down on people a little too much? How can you say that I am also a turtle, a wealthy young man from a wealthy family, and you don't give me any face?" Too lazy to pay attention to this talkative guy, Lin Zongheng also saw the three people on the beach at this time. Han Qian, Lu Shenga, Luo Shen? How did these three people get together? Then Lin Zongheng had the answer in his mind. He was kicked out of the circle by these two people. Lin Zongheng squinted at Luo Shen lying on the bench and murmured in his heart, "It's such a nuisance that you're alive." Thinking this in his heart, The smile on his face was very strong. Lin Zongheng opened his arms and shouted loudly. Master Han, Master Lu. Not seeing each other for one day is like 3 autumns. Lu Shenge smiled, waved his hand and whispered. Is this a turtle? Han Qian, I suddenly agree with what you said. Han Qian lay back on the beach and said calmly. Don't agree with me. We are not the same person. If possible, I would prefer each of us to play our own way. Now that Feng Lun is messing with me, my head is about to explode. You think of a way to drive this bastard away. I think annoyed. Lu Shenge shrugged. I don't have the ability. While talking, Lin Zongheng had already stepped forward, squatted next to Han Qian and handed Han Qian a cigarette. Han Qian did not take it and whispered that he had just thrown it away. Then he saw that Lu Shenge still had half a cigarette in his hand, and Lin Zongheng threw it away. He curled his lips, looked at the mountains behind the sofa, and sighed. What a beautiful mountain. It's about to be riddled with holes. After saying this, Lu Shenge became even more suspicious of this guy's academic qualifications. How sick is his brain to say such a thing? Luo Shen, who was lying on the bench, couldn't help it anymore, frowned and said. Master Lin, do you think the pruned garden looks better, or the overgrown wasteland? Lin Zongheng glanced at Luo Shen and smiled lightly. I do know that a tree cannot grow straight unless it is repaired. Miss Luo must also know this. I would also like to advise Miss Luo, don't hang out with people like Go De Peo. If you suffer, you will also hurt others. Mr. Han, are you right? Han Qian was too lazy to speak and continued to ignore this guy. Lin Zongheng didn't care, took a chair and sat under the pergola, sighing. This time you two dug such a big hole for me to jump into, won't your consciences hurt? One betrayed my plan, and the other ran to destroy my plan, causing me to lose a Huawei in vain. Tian Group, I really have to thank you too. Hearing this, Lu Shenge said with disdain. Heartache? What is the heart? My heart would have died 4 years ago. Did you feel heartache when you pierced my lungs with a knife? Young Master Lin? Did you feel heartache when you spent 400,000 yuan to buy Han Qian's legs? Did you? Did you feel heartbroken when you asked Guda Pao to kill Luo Shen? Or did you feel heartbroken when your father forced your mother to death? After saying this, Lin Zongheng stood up and put his foot on Lu Shenge's chest. Lu Shenge was kicked far away. Lin Zongheng was still unwilling to give up. He grabbed the bench on the ground and started to hit Lu Shenge. Eunuch Lu, you can talk about our affairs as you like. If you dare to mention my parents, today is your death anniversary. When he was about to pick up the bench, he found that the bench was being held down by someone. Han Qian grabbed the legs of the bench and said calmly. You can do it, but don't touch the guy I brought. You two can do whatever you want. When Lin Zongheng looked at Han Qian, Lu Shenge had already stood up and punched Lin Zongheng on the side of his face. Lin Zongheng kicked him back. No one expected that the young masters of the two groups would suddenly take action. Lin Zongheng brought a group of people who were stunned, and Luo Shen also stared blankly at the two people who took action. In fact, Lin Zongheng would not do anything about what Lu Shenge said about Lin Mend. The last thing he should say is that Lin Zongheng wants to kill Luo Shen, because the people behind Lin Zongheng are all his future partners. If they knew that he was a will, they continue to cooperate with someone who can even kill his fiancée. In just a few minutes, bright red appeared on their faces. Lu Shenge picked up the stool and Lin Zongheng raised a stone. Han Qian stood between them and pushed them away, frowning. I said, you fight, don't touch my things. Lin Zongheng said angrily. The stone belongs to your humming family too. Han Qian pointed at Lu Shenge and said softly. His beach was renovated and developed in honor of his family. After saying this, he looked at Li Shenge. I brought the chair, put it down or I'll beat you up. After saying this, Lin Zongheng said angrily. Lu Shenga, you are a humming man, don't let it go. Lu Shenga let go of his hand and sneered. Fighting Han mad dog. I'm not humming stupid. Originally planning to have a good rest for the day, he was interrupted by the two grandsons. Han Qian picked up his clothes and stood up to leave. Luo Shen stood up and followed behind, leaving Lu Shenga and Lin Zongheng staring at each other in a stalemate. Han Qian got on the highway, and Luo Shen followed behind him, panting. Han Qian, do you think they are acting? Han Qian opened the car door, and Luo Shen sat directly in the passenger seat. Han Qian looked at the woman helplessly. Use your brain, would you choose to act with Lin Zongheng at this time? Didn't you drive today? Luo Shen laughed naively. My legs hurt and I can't open them. Han Qian asked calmly as he got into the car and started the car to return to the city. What's going on over there lately? Luo Shen said softly. This time they failed to get the cake in the tourism development zone. They seem to be preparing to suppress Huishan and invest heavily in real estate. Now Dongcheng is developing very fast. Changxiang has had accidents one after another. In addition, Lin Mend was interviewed, and the company's shareholders seemed to be in panic, and some people had already begun to secretly sell their shares. Han Qian nodded after hearing this and said calmly. Tell Lu Guangming that they are going to start the acquisition, and don't be sneaky. Find a new face or a foreskin company to acquire it. As long as someone offers, you will accept it? When acquiring shares, try your best to keep the price down and spread the news. Charge as much as you want, I will ask someone to cooperate with you. Why collect so many shares? Trust me. Believe it? Then don't ask. I'm not Lin Zongheng, so I have no reason to attack you. You consider me your fiancé. Han Qian stopped talking. When they reached the city, Luo Shen couldn't help but speak. What are you going to do now? Han Qian stopped the car and looked at the four characters Changxiang group, took out a cigarette and lit it, and said calmly. I need a chess piece. Find someone to pick you up. I have some things to do. I want to watch you play chess. Prepare 3 million for me in cash. Immediately. Give me an hour. Too long, half an hour. Are you desperate? Then you go home, I'm going to find Nuan. Luo Shen closed her eyes, her plump breastplate kept rising and falling. She was about to be pissed off by Han Qian. This man didn't understand what style was. He took out his phone and called Near abroad. At the same time, Han Qian also dialed the number on your phone. Wei? Dad, can you help me make an appointment with Aunt Zhangxian? Tell her that I want her to make chess pieces for me once. When the words came out, Luo Shen, who was on the phone, suddenly turned his head. How could he tell the other party openly when he was a chess piece? What medicine is Han Qian selling in this gourd? After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 677. Luo Shen scraped together 3 million in cash. The foreign girl near threw the cash in Han Qian's trunk and left without any hesitation. Then Han Qian asked Luo Shen to find a good environment for talking about things. The place. At 1 o'clock, Han Qian sat in the Luo Shen dining cafe. Next to him sat Luo Shen, and opposite him was the intellectual and Ms. Zhangxian. Zhangxian was also one of Changxiang's shareholders. Naturally, she knew Luo Shen. However, she didn't really get involved in Changxiang's affairs, and she was surprised that Luo Shen could sit with Han Qian. Zhangxian stirred the coffee with a small spoon and said softly. What's the matter with Mr. Han calling me out today? What's the matter with Miss Luo? Listening to the unkind tone, Han Qian chuckled softly. Thank you very much, Aunt Xian. Luo Shen and I are now business partners. I invite Aunt Xian here today because I have something to ask for. You tell me and I listen. I want Ancien to be my chess piece for once. When the words came out, Luo Shen's expression became very shocked. This guy knew what he was talking about. Jiang Xian looked at Han Qian, her eyes filled with anger and contempt, and she frowned and said in a deep voice, "Young man, are you a little too arrogant? Although I don't have much ability, I'm not a fool that you can fool with a few words. If it weren't for the sake of warmth, I wouldn't see you today, who has messed up Binhai City. Man." After saying this, Jiang Xian stood up and left, and Han Qian smiled calmly. "Ancien, do you know that Nuan quit Changxiang and took over Huishan Group? But do you know that Linmen purchased Nuan's shares at a price of 150%? Or in other words, do you think Nuan has left Changxiang, and the shareholders who supported him are also preparing to leave? Do you think you will still feel comfortable staying in Changxiang?" Jiang Xian turned around and glared at Han Qian, gritting her teeth. "I asked Nuan about her departure from Changxiang, and it was you. It was you, Han Qian, who made Nuan give up the Changxiang group that her father when she worked hard to build. You abandoned Lao Wen's second child for profit." Han Qian had a sarcastic look on his lips and said disdainfully, "The second child named Lin? Ancien, the reason your shares were not swallowed up is entirely because when she was behind you. Is Changxiang the child of my father-in-law? This child was born as early as 5 years ago. It has already been taken away by the Lin family. I want to ask Ancien why she didn't come out to accuse Linmen of taking away when she's child at that time." Jiang Xian was speechless. Wen Shu was indeed driven away from Changxiang by the board of directors 5 years ago. In exchange, Linmen no longer interfered with the company's affairs. Han Qian said with disdain when he saw this. "Are you afraid? Are you incapable? Are you afraid of facing Lin Mend?" At this time, Luo Shen grabbed Han Qian's arm and whispered, "Han Qian! Stop talking." Han Qian shook off Luo Shen's hand and said again, "It is inevitable for Wen Nuan to leave Changxiang. Because I am going to take action against Changxiang. I can't let Wen leave like my father-in-law in despair without saying anything, and I can't let Wen all the hard work for Changxiang. The Lin family father and son made wedding dresses. Of course, if Ancien thinks Linmend is good, just pretend that I, Han Qian, have never been here today, and we will see you at the mall in the future. I would like to see the warm and beloved Ancien, how my father-in-law remembers the alumni treat the Wen family." After saying this, Han Qian stood up and prepared to leave. He walked out of the box and strode forward, murmuring in his heart, 3-2. Han Qian. We are talking. Han Qian smiled. If Jiang Xian spoke at the end of the count, he would still leave. But when Jiang Xian spoke, Han Qian returned to the box and sat down again, smiling. "I think Ancien is very sensible. I have been married to Wen Nuan for many years, so I know Changxiang well. When Wen Nuan joined Changxiang as vice president, Changxiang was already divided into 2 factions. The progressive Wen party, the conservative Lin family. Now that the Wen party can follow Wen Nuan, is it possible that Ancien still can't see the situation clearly? As the only elder who is most trusted by Wen of the Changxiang group, do you want to see Wen take action against Changxiang? Failed because of you." Jiang Xian lowered her head and remained silent. Luo Shen's mind was full of doubts. Han Qian hadn't explained the role of Jiang Xian's chess piece yet. Han Qian took a sip of his coffee and continued. "I think Ancien will always support Wen Nuan. Wen Nuan looks silly, but her abilities are very outstanding. She has me as her husband and Wen Shi as her father. Wen's future is limitless. Besides, now with my status in the city, I don't know who can stop me from pushing Wen Nuan to the top, and I don't want the blood of my relatives to flow on this road." Jiang Xian was still struggling, but Han Qian no longer cared what she thought and said again. The land in Dongcheng has been returned to my hands. Changxiang has no chance to develop any real estate. Military kingdom has been acquired by Luoshan, and the Second People's Hospital has also fallen into Nuan's hands. Ancien, I am very curious. What are you struggling to support? The feelings left behind by your husband? Or do you just want to be content with the status quo? Han Qian pressed forward step by step, while Zhang Xian slowly retreated. She is also asking herself, what is she insisting on? When she has already left Changxiang, should she stay and insist on what when she has done? Zhang Xian raised her head to look at Han Qian and said softly. What is your plan? I want to know, or what I want to do after taking your chess piece. Han Qian picked up his 70 or 80 kilogram skull bag and put it on the table, smiling lightly. I need Ancien to transfer the shares in her hands to Luo Shen's account in batches, and declare to the outside world that she has sold her shares, which will cause Changxiang's shareholders to panic. I now want to acquire all the shares Changxiang wants to sell. Zhang Xian frowned slightly and asked. Causing panic? Han Qian shook his head and smiled. I just hope that Ancien will take the lead, but I won't pay you any money. What you get is to enjoy 12% of the shares after the event is completed. Use the 10 in your hand to fight for the extra 2. Or a hefty commission. Han Qian, do you think I'm a fool? Do you want me to give you 10% of my shares for free? Han Qian shook his head. No, it's borrowing. It's renting. Every step of life is a gamble. If you win the bet, you will be rich, but if you lose the bet, I don't know how to lose. I have a huge financial chain behind me to support me, and now the plan is just a short-term plan to make money. What if we lose? Ancien doesn't seem to believe me. Here is 3 million, leasing 10% of the shares in your hands for 1 year, 2 agreements, 1 lease agreement that you and I know about Luo Shen, and 1 external transfer agreement. You don't need to acknowledge it, this share is sold by you. I will run this thing. If you don't believe me, if it fails, I will pay you 150% of the price. But if it succeeds in the long run, you will lose that 100%. If you divide it into 2 cents, you can only get 1%, and you won't get any say in the company. You can only enjoy dividends. Zhang Xian smiled and sneered. Han Qian, don't you think the right to speak is not in your hands? Han Qian also laughed when he said this, squinting his eyes and smiling. Ancien, do you think it will be difficult for me to get 10% of what you have? It's much easier to deal with you than to deal with Lu Shenga, Lin Zongheng, and the others. You are a warm elder, so I will be gentle to you. Some. Zhang Xian took a deep breath, closed her eyes, sighed weakly, and whispered. Say what I should do. The first step is to transfer the shares. The second step is to wait quietly for the call. If someone asks you, just say you have sold it. Don't say who bought it, just say that the price given by the other party is very high, and tell them that Linmend used the company's money bought Nuan's shares, and then the hospital and the military country were disposed of to fill the gap. He originally planned to make money in the development zone, plan to fill the gap in the military country and the hospital, but now there is no more. All I need to say is that, and my people will run the rest. 1 year. 3 million. Most. Sign the agreement. Luo Shen, ask your people to send 2 copies of the agreement. According to what I said, you are also looking for someone you can absolutely trust. Luo Shen stood up and went out to prepare. Han Qian took another sip of coffee and whispered. I don't like the taste of coffee, maybe I'm lagging behind. Ancien, if I take this plan short term, you may only get 10% of the shares and a sum of money. It depends on whether there are any surprises in the plan, such as Linmend I can find someone to borrow money. I will ask Tu Xiao and others to communicate with the people in the underground bank. I believe there is someone from Ancien in the company who will give me a message when the time comes. Han Qian, I can't guess your plan. Even if you receive your shares now, you can't compete with Lin Mend. He has absolute control over Changxiang. Competing with him? I'm not stupid. I just want to make some money in the short term to make everyone happy. I have no other meaning. I will give you 10% of the shares and 10 million in cash in 1 year. You are normal. Enjoy the shareholders' share, and you shouldn't lose money on this deal. I'm very curious as to why these things appear in your head. This is not the maturity and city that you should have at your age. I will tell Nuan to be careful with you. It's the first time I've met someone like you. You make me feel fear. Fear comes from distrust. If Ancien trusted me, she would not have said this. I am telling you a piece of news. Li Dehai was driven out of the country by me. I gave Gao Fuling 10% of the glory. 2 shares were given to Yan Qingqing with 13%. Wei Tiancheng was also kicked out by me, and he bought Huishan Group at a price of 50% and sold it at a price of 150%. The shares in Nuan's hands have been tricked by me at the Yamen Gate. I can use my current connections and favors to get Lin Mend interviewed. Ancien, do you think it's difficult for me to take away the 10% from you? What? During the short conversation, Luo Shen came back with 4 contracts in his hand. Han Qian stood up, stretched and yawned. Luo Shen, add a word, if you use it for a short period of time, you will return everything and give a sum of money as a gift. The rest of the things you two just need to sign and pledge. I have other things. Han Qian left immediately and took out his cell phone to call Qian Ling. Auntie. I may need to use a lot of money. I don't know when, I guess I will use it. How many? Hundreds of millions. I will use this money in the hands of you and King Hu, and we will get our money back quickly. Just call then. After hanging up the phone, there was no need to talk to Cai King Hu about this matter, so Han Qian called Tu Xiao. Boss Tu, arrange for me to meet with several people from underground banks, the biggest ones in the province. The storm has not stopped and the plan is still going on. How can Han Qian rest? As soon as the phone was hung up, nursery rhyme called. Well, our mother asked me to bring you some dumplings. Where are you? My mother. We have accepted me as our goddaughter. If you have any objections, please tell our mother. You really want to get close to the water and get to the moon first, right? Get out. The dumplings are being fed to the dog. Monthly bills are doubled, creditors. Hit me once. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 678. There was no time to eat dumplings now. In the afternoon, Yan Qingqing took Glory back to deal with some matters in the development zone, and asked Han Qian to assist Yang Lan in assigning tasks to the general department. By the time he finished the work, it was already dark. Members of the department rarely work overtime. Han Qian gave Lu Zhuolong 1,000 yuan and asked him to take the big guys to have a meal before going back. Then Han Qian went out and drove to the 8th district. Although it is now a society governed by the rule of law, not everyone dares to go to the 8th district after dark. There are drunkards, gangsters with tattoos of dragons and phoenixes, scantily clad KTV princesses, everyone is there. Drunk fights often occur here, and even fatalities occur. Most students and office workers will avoid this section of the road after school, preferring to walk farther. The golden McLaren parked on the road of Happy Street with its unique roar. This street is about 500 to 600 meters long. On both sides of the street are feasting KTVs, bars, etc. Some of the young men in the store have already put the Korean Jian Dang became the big consumer tonight and came over on his own initiative. Brother-in-law. Can you sing? We are all new here, so you can have fun and be free. Han Jian got out of the car and patted the scared young man on the shoulder, smiling. Next time, look at the car and I'll go find Tu Xiao. Not everyone can call Tu Xiao's name in the 8th district. The young man nodded obediently. Han Jian went to the largest nightclub in the 8th district. When he walked in, the boy at the door took Han Jian to see Tu Xiao. Entering the office, Han Jian looked at Tu Xiao sitting at the desk and frowned. When you get older, you should rest early. Why are you working so hard? Tu Xiao put down the account in his hand, stretched out his hand and patted the secretary's buttocks beside him, smiling. Go, prepare some drinks. Is the child's uncle driving? Han Jian stepped forward and picked up a cigar from Tu Xiao's desk and handed it to Tu Xiao's personal secretary. The secretary was slightly older than Han Jian. He cut the cigar skillfully and returned it with both hands. Han Jian lit it and said softly. I drove Jian Wan's car here. I don't dare to drink anymore. I almost drank myself to death on the Mid-Autumn Festival. Let me make a call. Tu Xiao waved his hand to signal Han Jian to do as he pleased. Han Jian took out his mobile phone and dialed a number that he was not planning to call again. The other party did not answer. Just when he was about to put away his mobile phone, the other party called. Master Han. Han Jian grinned. How is your life in Canada, Director Wei? If you are worried that someone will do something bad to you, please give me a call to say hello. Wei Tiancheng on the other side of the phone was silent for a few seconds and said softly. Young Master Han, just tell me what you have to say. When I get to Canada, Feng Lun will come and kill you. Apart from young Master Han, I can't think of anyone else who is harmful to me. Han Jian shrugged, leaned against his desk and took a puff of his cigar, squinting his eyes and blowing out the smoke. Director Wei. Don't think that I, Han Jian, are so sinister. I'm just doing to you what you did to me. I'm calling you to ask you something. Is Linmend rich? Can he have it? How much is the deposit? Can Director Wei tell me? Wei Tiancheng was silent again. This time he waited for a long time before speaking and said softly. Linmend doesn't have much money in his hands. He likes to gamble. The money he brought back from Macau to start a company with your father-in-law and Zhang Xian's husband made him rich through gambling. After he left Changxiang, he continued to gamble. When I stayed in Macau, the most I lost in one night was 8 million. Go and find out for me. If the information you give me is accurate, I will let Feng Lun leave Canada. If you say you lied to me, Kui Li will go to you for tea. Forget it, I don't believe you, so I'll let Feng Lun protect you. Be safe. No. Master Han. I have credible news. Tell me the story. At the beginning of this year, I went to Macau with Linmend. I lost completely and took 15 million from me in an attempt to recoup my money. As a result, I lost all my money. Please don't let Feng Lun climb into my window in the middle of the night. I'll talk to him. After saying that, Han Jian hung up the phone and turned to look at Tu Xiao, who shrugged and chuckled. Linmend is indeed good at gambling. I heard that there was no opponent at the gambling table before he opened the company. I don't know what happened after that. You asked me to contact the underground bank just to find out if Linmend borrowed money from it? Why didn't you ask Linmend if he had borrowed money from it? Don't have a loan from the bank. He doesn't dare to mortgage the 27% that Wen Nuan has in his hand. He is not a fool. Even if the bank gives him a loan, he will estimate the market price of the 27% and will not use it as a mortgage. He loaned 150 to Linmend. Besides, using our company to lend money to buy shares for himself? If anyone finds out, he will be beaten to death. While talking, the secretary brought tea. Han Qian held a cigar in his left hand and a teacup in his right hand. Matching the diamond ring on his ring finger, this guy suddenly had the aura of a superior. Tu Xiao also lit a cigar and frowned. Say it directly, don't spare me. Han Qian also frowned and said softly. What I mean is, can we now know whether Lin Men took money from underground banks? I have been thinking recently, where did this old bastard get the money to eat up so many shares in Wen Nuan's hands in one go, and this guy quickly after selling off the uniformed country and the hospital for cash? I always felt something was not right here. Tu Xiao frowned and said again. So what? So I want to try and have a money game with him. I came here to ask you to help me. You can eat well underground. Check whether Lin Men has any contact with these underground banks. After saying this, Tu Xiao narrowed his eyes and said calmly. What if there is contact? Tell me, how much money do I have to borrow? But it has to go through the hands of underground banks, and then you won't let the loan shark go? I'm thinking, what if Lin Men borrows money and can't pay it back? Tu Xiao glared at Han Qian and frowned. It's been a long time since I've been involved in such a business that damages moral integrity. There are too many ways to study them without money. If they come to make trouble, can such a big company withstand the trouble? The loss of reputation will be more uncomfortable than killing them. After that, sue and ask the other party to pay back the money. If you don't have money, just use things to pay off the debt. No matter where you borrow the money, as long as the interest is protected by law, he must pay back the money. Oh. Han Qian frowned and nodded, then waved to Tu Xiao. I'm leaving. Let's go out for some fun during the National Day holiday. Do you want to go? If you have anything to do with you young people, go ahead and do your business. Han Qian left the nightclub, and when he came to the car, he realized that he was still holding the teacup. He glanced at the cigarette in his hand, then at the burgundy black tea, raised his head and drank the tea from the quilt, and then put the teacup away. Hand it to the young man looking at the car. Go. Send it back to Tu Xiao. The young man took the teacup and ran. Han Qian opened the car door and got into the car. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He started the car and prepared to go home. But before he could turn around, he was stopped. Looking at the traffic policeman standing at the front of the car, Han Qian frowned. Is there anyone in the traffic police team who doesn't know his person or car? Han Qian whistled and signaled the other party to get out of the way. It was okay if he didn't press the button. But when he pressed, the other party took out the pepper water. Han Qian frowned and opened the car window and said angrily. What are you doing? Why are you stopping me? The female traffic policeman walked to the car window with pepper spray in hand and said sternly. Turn off the engine and get out of the car. I suspect you are driving under the influence. Han Qian looked at this pretty female traffic policeman and frowned. Do you know who I am? Give me your leader's phone number. The female traffic policeman's face turned ugly and she said coldly. Do you know who I am? It doesn't matter who you call today. Turn off the engine. Get out of the car, turn your back to me and hold your head in your hands. While speaking, the woman actually put her hands on her waist. Seeing this, Han Qian was stunned. Seeing that the skilled movements were not as simple as a simple traffic policeman, Han Qian didn't drink, and he wanted to go home to give warmth when he saw the time. Let's cook, otherwise this girl will cause trouble again. He frowned and said coldly to the female traffic policeman. Just bring me the alcohol tester and I'll test it. I have something else to do, so hurry up. The female traffic policeman said angrily. Do you really think I'm a traffic policeman? Get out of the car first, and I'll ask someone from my traffic police team to come over. You're not a traffic policeman, why did you stop me? As long as I wear these clothes, I have the right to interrogate you. First warning, Get out of the car and undergo inspection. Han Qian got a little angry. He looked at the warning signal on the female traffic policeman's chest and took out his mobile phone to call Li Jinhai. When the call was connected, Han Qian said, "Second uncle. I was stopped by a traffic policeman in District 8. I didn't drink and she insisted on getting out of the car for inspection. Nuan is still waiting at home. Her police number is." Before he finished speaking, Han Qian watched two off-road motorcycles speeding towards him without any intention of slowing down. The McLaren was lying in the middle of the road and there was no way for these two motorcycles to pass. Han Qian opened the door and prepared. After getting out of the car, the female traffic policeman closed the door as soon as he opened it. Han Qian said angrily when he saw this, "Get the hell out of my way. How dare you insult the officer on duty at the Yamen gate? You, get out of here." Han Qian pushed the car door hard. At this time, the two motorcycle riders took out two glass bottles filled with gasoline and threw them at Han Qian. The glass bottles hit the roof of the car and broke into pieces. Han Qian was busy holding the cigar in his hand. "Throw it to the other side of the road." Before he could relax, the rider of another green off-road motorcycle threw the half-finished cigarette in his mouth at McLaren. "Who the hell does this belong to?" Han Qian was confused. How many people wanted to kill him? Without enough time to think, he reached out and grabbed the thrown cigarette butt. Zhyla. The sound of flesh being burned could be clearly heard. At this time, the female traffic policeman didn't seem to notice anything unusual here. She took out the handcuffs and cuffed Han Qian's wrists, and leaned the other end against the car door. Han Qian was really confused at this moment. "How dare you attack the police?" You." Han Qian kicked the female traffic policeman in the stomach. The moment she bent down, a steel pipe passed across the back of her head. Han Qian bent down to avoid it and roared angrily. "Where are Tu Xiao's people? Are you blind? They both want to kill me." Han Qian was really scared. As long as there was a spark that ignited McLaren, he would definitely die. At the same time, the female traffic policeman sitting on the ground noticed the two killers and habitually reached out to touch the gun at her waist. It took her a moment to remember that her gun had been taken away. When they were panicking, the roar of the motorcycle sounded again. This time both of them took out lighters, and one of the men wearing a green helmet roared angrily. "You and Feng Lun are playing with our brothers." Two motorcycles, one red and one green, came towards Han Qian. The lighters in their hands kept facing the wind. Han Qian roared when he saw this. "Will you untie it for me?" The female traffic policeman was also anxious and said with a cry, I can't find the key." As soon as he finished speaking, the woman actually stood in front of him with her arms spread out. Han Qian roared when he saw this. "They are people from the Mid-Autumn Festival party. You don't want to live anymore." When the female traffic police officer turned her head to look at Han Qian, she actually smiled, with tears in her eyes, and said with a smile, "I'm a police officer. I want to protect people's safety." After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 679. Now that the other party is seeking revenge, he should have thought of it and guessed it. What's even more troublesome is that his hands are handcuffed to the car door, and he can't avoid the McLaren that may catch fire at any time. The female traffic policeman seemed to be really ready to die. She had no intention of avoiding the two motorcycles as they rushed over. The two motorcycles were getting closer and closer. Han Qian whispered, "Look at the lighters in their hands, you take the green helmet, and I'll do it." Before he could finish his words, two figures rushed out from the left and right of McLaren and pounced directly on the two riders. Guan Yunbiao and Xiao He. They were both in a nightclub. Two bangs. The motorcycle fell to the ground and rode towards Han Qian. Han Qian reached out and grabbed the female traffic policeman's back collar and threw it directly. He held the car door with one hand and the roof of the car with the other hand and raised his legs. Before he could think about it, Han Qian spoke. Roar. They are the two criminals responsible for the Mid-Autumn Festival massacre, don't let them get away. Han Qian stood on the motorcycle, Tu Xiao had already rushed over. Han Qian growled. Boss Tu. Give me your phone. When things got like this, Han Qian would not hold the female traffic police accountable just because of her words. If Guan Yunbiao and Ziohe hadn't arrived in time, he might have been burned to death here. Call Li Jinhai again. Second uncle. I was almost killed in District 8. Where's Tu Xiao's old dog? I'll go there now. This may be the fastest police dispatch from the city bureau. Within 3 minutes of hanging up the phone, the police officers patrolling the 8th district had already appeared in front of Han Qian. They held the key to handcuffs and wanted to unlock Han Qian, but Han Qian would take action as long as he got close, and there was nothing they could do for a while. Han Qian was sitting on the motorcycle at his feet, holding an unlit cigarette in his mouth. The female traffic policeman had been taken to the roadside to clean the wound on her arm. It seemed that she was still important. 10 minutes. Li Jinhai got out of the car with a pistol in his hand and strode towards Han Qian. Xiao Qian, how are you? I have asked people to assist Guan Yunbiao in chasing people. I will never let them run away today. Why are you wearing handcuffs? Han Qian raised his head and looked at Li Jinhai, then turned to look at the female traffic policeman sitting on the roadside and said in a low voice. Ask her. Second uncle, I suspect that she was bribed and deliberately delayed the time to leave me in District 8 to wait for the two prisoners to kill me. If she is not dealt with today, even if the King of Heaven comes, I won't be able to give her these handcuffs. I'll open it. I'll fight this bitch to the death. Li Jinhai turned his head and looked at the traffic policeman sitting on the roadside. He was stunned, frowning, and wondering. Niu Ziahua. You mean the handcuffs she put on you? Xiao Qian, this may be a misunderstanding. While talking, Tu Xiao came over and said coldly. Li Jinhai, this is really not a misunderstanding. I watched the surveillance. It was after the two killers appeared that this woman handcuffed Han Qian to the car door. In addition, she deliberately prevented Han Qian from getting out of the car. Now this car it's all filled with gasoline inside and out, look at the palm of Han Qian's left hand. Li Jinhai stepped forward and grabbed Han Qian's wrist. He looked at the palm of his hand that had been burned to black. He then looked at the car covered with soaked quilts and the fire extinguishers in everyone's hands. He knew that Han Qian would not give up. In desperation, Li Jinhai whispered. Xiao Qian, you go to the hospital first. My second uncle will give you a satisfactory explanation for this matter. Han Qian shook his head. Second uncle, you did nothing wrong in this matter, and don't explain it to me. I'm going to call my two mothers now. After he finished speaking, Han Qian took out his mobile phone and dialed the number. Li Jinhai stepped forward to stop him, but Tu Xiao stretched out his hand to stop him and said coldly. It really has nothing to do with you. Whoever's fault is whose fault it is. The mother-in-law quickly answered the phone, and the sound of mahjong playing came from the other side of the phone. Han Qian lowered his head and choked. Mom. I was in District 8 and I was almost killed. Boom. There was a muffled sound on the phone, and Li Jinhai growled. Waiting for mom in District 8, aren't you finished with a bunch of little brats? After hanging up the phone, Han Qian called Qian Ling. This time Han Qian really cried. Auntie. I'm in District 8. You make the decision for me, I almost died here. Wait for me. In this city, the people Han Qian trusted the most were the two women who regarded him as their own sons. Looking down at McLaren, who had been knocked into a deep hole, Han Qian slowly squatted down and was handcuffed. His right hand is extremely conspicuous. At this time, someone also called Niu Qiudong. Her daughter got into trouble. A Mercedes-Benz 600 and a GTR arrived in District 8 successively. Qianling was just about to get out of the car when an electric car rushed into the crowd. Before the car could stabilize, Li Jinhe got out of the car, regardless of whether the electric car would hit him or not. When he arrived, he quickly ran towards Han Qian. Looking at Han Qian, who was squatting on the ground and handcuffed, Li Jinhe's anger had already rushed to his head. He waved his hand and slapped Li Jinhe twice in the face. "You handcuffed my son to the car? Li Jinhe, our two families are broken up. We will never have contact with each other for the rest of our lives. My son, Mom is here, don't cry anymore." Li Jinhe squatted beside Han Qian and hugged Han Qian in his arms. At this time, Qianling also rushed over with her bodyguards. She saw the burn on Han Qian's palm at a glance, stepped forward and held Han Qian's hand, and said angrily, "What's going on? What's going on? Isn't it over?" Over and over again. After finishing his words, Li Jinhe turned to look at Tu Xiao. Her eyes were full of murderous intent and she gritted her teeth and said coldly, "If you can't protect me from District 8, get out of District 8. What can Tu Xiao do? Did it really happen on his territory?" Qianling's bodyguard took out the medical kit in the car. Uncle Zhong took tweezers to treat Han Qian's wounds. Qianling stood up and scanned everyone. "I don't care who handcuffed my Han Qian. No one here can leave today. Ada and Aer, you two keep an eye on the female traffic policeman. Ah-san, go to the nearby KTV and get me the surveillance camera. Come out, if you dare to refuse to give or if the surveillance system is broken, they won't have to do business in Binhai City." Li Jinhe and Tu Xiao didn't say a word. Some people wanted to be peacemakers. They knew Niu Ziahua's identity very well. They wanted to step forward to open the handcuffs and persuade Han Qian to go to the hospital, but Qianling stopped him before they could step forward. The black bodyguard pushed away. Qianling said coldly, "No one can touch the handcuffs today unless they give me a perfect explanation." At this moment, Tu Xiao's phone rang, and Guan Yunbiao's phone called. One was caught, one ran away, and two younger brothers were stabbed. They were seriously injured and sent to the hospital. What to do with this person now? Tu Xiao's answer is simple. Bring it here and leave it to your brother Han to handle. At this moment, Li Jinhe's phone rang, and he frowned and answered the call. Yeah. Yes, that's right, she was slightly injured. No, she can't leave now. Han Qian's family won't let her go. Well, you're right, I'm not ready to let her go either. Either you come here, or I handle it according to our city bureau's method. She is very suspicious." After hanging up the phone, Li Jinhe took a deep breath and said softly, "Sanur, we really can't take off these handcuffs." Li Jinhe raised his head and said coldly, "Can you finally be a member of the Li family for once?" Li Jinhe took a deep breath. The little girl who handcuffed Han Qian is Niu Qiudong's daughter. Even the Bull Demon King's daughter. I won't let her go today. ASI, go and keep a close eye on that little girl. Qianling's anger was about to burn the entire 8th district. The people in District 8 were still watching the excitement. The young man who was handcuffed in the car had not left yet. The young man who delivered the cups was telling the police officer at the Yamanman what had happened. "My uncle drank a cup of black tea when he got in the car, and then he went to deliver the cup. When he came back, he was already handcuffed in the car. About half an hour later, Guan Yunbiao and Xiao Hai came back. They were holding a man who was tied up by Wu Huida. As soon as this man appeared, the police officers from the Yamanman surrounded him, and the boys from the 8th district also moved. Another confrontation between the two sides. Li Jinhe turned to look at Tu Xiao beside him and said coldly, "Tu Xiao, what do you mean? Tu Xiao put his hands in his sleeves and smiled lightly. Literally, my uncle didn't ask any questions about this guy. You really can't take him away. My security group in District 8 is of the same mind, but we don't know how many minds you have at the Yamen door. The child is his uncle. Ask a question. Han Qian took a deep breath and nodded gently. Ask a question. After saying this, Tu Xiao shouted to Guan Yun Biao. Biozi, bring me here. Your brother Han wants to ask questions. Guan Yun Biao is well known for his temperament. Others are afraid of you like spies, but he really doesn't look down on you. He dragged the person in front of Han Qian with a short knife. Han Qian looked at Guan Yun Biao, who was covered in blood, and said softly, Brother Guan, you saved my life again. Guan Yun Biao waved his hand and said carelessly, brothers don't speak the same language, how dare he touch my brother. He then cursed at the gangster in front of him. Kneel down for me. He kicked the man in the leg. The man looked at Han Qian with anger and unwillingness in his eyes. He spat at Han Qian, and the next second he was kicked on the head by Xiao Hai. It's not worth beating this kind of person to death. Leave it to us. We won't make it easy for him. Han Qian wiped the saliva from his face and said softly, you are living well abroad, why do you want to come back to kill me? I am not as easy to die as you think, otherwise Kui Li would not have failed to assassinate me again and again. Oh. I remembered, he was caught by me not long ago. There is a man named Wei Zhuang who was thrown into prison. Are you brothers? If so, are you Wei Qiang? Li Jinhai asked the police around him and got the answer. This guy was really Wei Qiang. Wei Qiang glared at Han Qian with scarlet eyes and gritted his teeth angrily. We have all been fooled by Feng Lun. He and Kui Li are free and easy with half of the money. He can threaten the people who were at the Mid-Autumn Festival party at any time to take the money, but we are living like mice. Why? You are Feng Lun Liu's chess piece in Binhai City. If you don't die, we will be caught sooner or later. Han Qian took a deep breath and said calmly. Why? What about Feng Lun? Why can he get away with it? After the incident, he stayed in a hotel opposite the Binhai Municipal Bureau for a month. Feng Lun stayed in the hotel opposite the city bureau for a month. And no one found out? This incident was louder than the slap Li Jinhai gave him just now. Li Jinhai stood there stunned, muttering with his eyes blank. Feng Lun lived under my nose for a month. When the words came out, Wei Qiang roared at Li Jinhai. Yes. In front of you, he crazily threatened the people at the party to give him money. He gave money one after another. Feng Lun took away tens of millions, but he only gave us brothers 3 or 4 million. Why? Han Qian took a deep breath, and then Uncle Zhong spoke. Why are you so stupid? After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 680. The person was detained by Han Qian, and no one could take him away. Li Jinhai seemed to have come to his senses today, standing aside silently and maintaining order. After watching the surveillance, it was confirmed that Niu Xiahua was using chicken feathers as arrows to deliberately embarrass Han Qian, and she was the one who handcuffed Han Qian to the car door. Han Qian's cell phone was blasted all of a sudden. They all came to Han Qian to plead for mercy and say good things. Even Lu Shenga and Lin Zongheng also called. Lu Shenga was just a formality and had to make this call to ask Han Qian. If he was dead, he asked again if he could be released. When Han Qian confirmed that he would not be released, he hung up the phone and continued playing games. Lin Zongheng seemed a little deliberate and tried his best to discuss with Han Qian. Finally, Han Qian asked for 100 million, and Lin Zongheng hung up the phone. Can't talk. This mad dog is so angry that no one can persuade him. The 4-member team of Luo Shanda, Gao Fulai, Lu Guangming, and Wu Siguan also called. The 4 of them were together. Wu Siguan called and told Han Qian that someone came to them to help and plead for mercy. Han Qian told them to play in peace and you shouldn't worry about it. After hanging up the phone, Wu Sijuan turned around and cursed at the three men. Are you three men? Are you going to let me get into trouble? Han Qian scolded me, are you happy? Gao Xing sat by the window of the bowling alley with a tall script in his hand and said calmly. Are you scolding me? Should I not let you meddle in your own business? Wu Siguan, just be content. If we make this call, Han Qian may even ask us to get as far away as possible. If anything happens in the future, you will have to make this call. Lu Guangming chuckled. Girl. The phone call is not in vain. All the purchases today are mine. You can buy this bowling alley. Get lost, this arena belongs to me. The four-person team was just a formality and had to make this call. Han Qian sat on the ground and refused to open the handcuffs. An hour had passed. Niu Ziahua's apology was useless. She couldn't leave even if she wanted to. Dozens of people were blocking the road. She couldn't leave at all. Qian Ling's bodyguards didn't care about arrests. The one who is quick is not quick. 10 o'clock. The white Maserati stopped on the side of the road. Yates and Tanjeo got out of the car and rushed over. In fact, Wen Nuan, Yan Qingqing and the others already knew about it, and someone also called them to beg for help. But they didn't come, and they didn't call Han Qian. Their meaning was obvious. Tong Yao squatted next to Han Qian and put a piece of clothing on him. Yates frowned. Mr. Han, I have prepared an administrative prosecution to hold the other party accountable. Miss Wu called. If you need to create public opinion, she can come over now. Yates is very calm. Her profession does not allow her to panic. She has to choose the most beneficial and effective path, and then operate it to maximize the benefits. Han Qian looked at the nursery rhyme holding his hand next to him, then he raised his head and looked at Yates and said softly. What do we lack most now? Yates took out his tablet and looked at it for a long time before shaking his head. There is nothing missing. If I must say what is missing, it is reputation. Mr. Han's reputation in the city is very good, but it is still a bit worse in the province. If you pursue the stupid investigation of Officer Niu Ziahua this time, it may have an impact. Without Niu Qiudong's normal work, you will be even more famous by then, and we can add this plot to Miss Wu's movie. This woman hit the nail on the head. She knew very well what Han Qian was thinking, which made Han Qian slightly scared, but more satisfied. At this time, Li Jinhai answered a call again. The caller seemed to want him to go out and talk, but Li Jinhai said he wanted to see the criminal and could not leave the scene and refused. Not long after hanging up the phone, the crowd dispersed. Niu Qiudong is here. Niu Ziahua, who had made a mistake, ran to Niu Qiudong and cried, claiming that she was under house arrest. Niu Qiudong took his daughter's hand and looked down at Han Qian, took a deep breath and said calmly. Han Qian, can I take Ziahua back first? The child is scared. After saying this, Qian Ling frowned and said coldly. Secretary Niu's daughter is a child, but my Xiao Qian is not a child. I still can't tell if your daughter is involved with this Wei Qiang. I won't let you take this person away. Niu Qiudong looked at Qian Ling and frowned. Qian Ling, don't be too assertive. Your assertiveness has already cost you a lot. I'm sorry about Han Qian and I will give him a satisfactory answer. When the words came out, Qian Ling laughed coldly. Sent us away with just one sentence. Secretary Niu has such great authority. What if I say I won't let you go today? Qian Ling's tone was serious. Uncle Zhong and the four foreign bodyguards slowly walked forward and stood beside Niu Qiudong. Qian Ling narrowed her eyes and said coldly. I'll wait for you and me to settle the accounts in the future. Let's settle today's accounts first. My precious child was handcuffed to a car door that could catch fire and explode at any time by your daughter. Should I sue you for intentional murder? Or should I sue Secretary Niu for abuse? Authority. Niu Qiudong ignored Qian Ling, looked down at Han Qian, and said softly. Han Qian, are we talking about anything at dawn? Besides, you also know that these two people are here for you. It's just a coincidence. Han Qian frowned and was about to speak when Tong Yao stood up and placed himself in front of Han Qian. With strong anger in his beautiful eyes, he looked at Niu Xiahua and asked. What crime did you use to force Han Qian's car to stop? And what crime did you use to handcuff Han Qian to the car door? If you can explain it clearly, I can make the decision to let you leave. After hearing this, Niu Xiahua spoke. I doubt. Before he finished speaking, Niu Qiudong covered his daughter's mouth and looked at nursery rhymes with a frown. Principal Tong, I'm asking Han Qian. Secretary Niu, I'm asking Niu Xiahua. Facing Niu Qiudong, who everyone wanted to give face to, Tong Yao chose the most hardcore method, and she was not targeting Niu Qiudong, but Niu Xiahua, who had made a mistake. What Niu Qiudong is worried about now is that Niu Xiahua will be criticized. At this time, people are still surrounding the Yamen gate, but once time passes, people will know that his daughter made a mistake, which will cause obstacles for her in the future. Looking at Tong Yao, who also looked at him coldly, Niu Qiudong said softly. Principal Tong, are you not going to discuss it anymore? As soon as he finished speaking, Han Qian spoke. Nursery rhymes, you first. Shut up. You have no business talking. Tanjiao's sharp shout frightened Han Qian, and he shut up obediently. At this time, Tanjiao looked at Niu Qiudong and said. This is not a simple misunderstanding or accident. First of all, my Han Qian did not do anything wrong. He did not show any resistance when he was forced to stop by the noble lady, nor did he break into the card. And judging from the surveillance footage, Han Qian discovered these two gangsters. When preparing to get out of the car, your daughter pushed back the car door that Han Qian had opened. When Han Qian got out of the car, the other party's gasoline bottle had been thrown into the car. In order to avoid hurting innocent people, Han Qian wanted to protect your daughter, but my daughter thinks that Han Qian is resisting the law and law enforcement cannot distinguish right from wrong. Is this a simple coincidence? The nursery rhyme restored what happened. She turned to look at Niu Xiahua and said coldly. But you didn't care about the priority of the matter. You handcuffed Han Qian to the car door out of personal emotion after the gasoline bottle had broken. First of all, you suspected that Han Qian was drinking and driving. Someone has proven that he drank black tea. You were not subjectively checking drunk driving, but targeting Han Qian personally. Could it be that Officer Mavericks is helping some people? Deliberately delaying time and waiting for the killer to come and commit the crime? What grudges does Han Qian have with you? But you want his life? I can make it clear, he said. My Han Qian doesn't know you. Secretary Niu, how can you give an explanation? If you can give it, not only Officer Maverick can leave today, but our whole family will pay you compensation. Isn't that an apology? Niu Xiahua also had a temper and said through gritted teeth. I have a routine checkup. What's the routine check? Drunk driving. Then why didn't you provide my Han Qian with a wine tester for a long time? And the first thing you took out was pepper water. After you forced Han Qian to stop, he didn't get out of the car or let the car move forward. Why did you do that? Take out the pepper water. And you said you were not targeting my Han Qian. Every word is pearly. Nursery rhymes comes from a liberal arts background. As a teacher, she knows exactly how to speak. After some questioning, Niu Xiahua was speechless. The two sides were in a stalemate. Niu Qiudong's temper gradually increased. He looked down at Wei Qiang, who was kneeling aside, and said coldly. Why did you come to District 8 to assassinate Han Qian? I'll give you a chance to make up for your mistakes. When the words came out, the expressions of Li Jinhe, Qianling, and everyone changed. Is Niu Qiudong trying to frame him? But before Wei Qiang could speak, Tong Yao shouted angrily. Secretary Niu. The Procuratorate and the City Bureau should interrogate criminals, not you, the secretary, asking questions here. There are 2 criminals now, and it is only a matter of time before the other one is arrested. If Secretary Niu wants to extract a confession, Niu Ziahua will prosecute administratively, and we will also prosecute you personally. After finishing her words, Tong Jiao turned to look at Wei Qiang and said coldly. Every word you say will become evidence in court. And don't forget, there are still 4 of your accomplices in the prison. Niu Qiudong was angry and pointed at the nursery rhyme. Principal Tong. Do you know what you are doing now? I can totally do it. Nursery rhyme turned around and roared. Come on. Catch me. My Han Qian was injured like this here today. Even if I risk my life, I won't let your Niu family have an easy time. Come on. Let's see whether my nursery rhyme's life is more valuable or your Niu family's reputation. Career is valuable. Women's madness is often reckless, and the craziness of nursery rhymes also gives Niu Qiudong a headache. There is nothing he can do about this inexperienced woman. At this time, the crowd moved out of the way again, and Cheng Jin, who was wearing pajamas and holding a cigarette in his mouth, came over, stood next to nursery rhyme, hugged the girl's shoulders, and said with a smile. You guys, hurry up and open the handcuffs. Each of your eyes is just for breathing. After finishing his words, Cheng Jin patted Tong Yao on the shoulder and smiled. Little child. Don't be impulsive. We, the elders, are still here when something happens. You don't need to fight like a little girl. You can send Xiao Qian to the hospital to treat the injury on his hand first. Be good and be obedient. Cheng Jin's comfort brought tears to Tong Yao's eyes, and she choked with sobs. Look at Han Qian's palms, the skin and flesh are burnt. How can I not be impulsive? I feel bad. We are all heartbroken. After finishing his words, Cheng Jin looked at Niu Qiudong and chuckled. Old Niu. This is the second time Xiao Hua has made a mistake. You can't say at the Yamen gate that you are indulging the younger generation because the elder in the family is an official, right? Don't be a policeman. After finishing his words, Cheng Jin turned to look at Qianling and smiled lightly. Director Qian, what do you think of the conditions for expulsion from the party? I think it's good. Qianling nodded and said calmly. Since Mayor Cheng has spoken, I, a woman, won't say anything more. Little Tong Xiao, help Han Qian to the hospital. Cheng Jin turned around to look at Niu Qiudong and smiled. Secretary Niu. Since the victim has agreed, let's implement this matter as soon as possible. Director Li will write a report and I will approve the note. My little niece can still embroider at home and plant some grass. Li Jinhai nodded. Niu Qiudong's face was already blue, he gritted his molars and said in a low voice. Cheng Jin. You can do it? Cheng Jin said with a smile still on his face. Really? I think my decision is okay. After all, this has a great impact on the Yeomanmen. Okay. Secretary Niu should take his niece home to comfort him first. After all, this kind of murder scene is not it suitable for girls. Director Li, don't rest tonight. Write a report and send it to me as soon as possible. There is another one who is fleeing and must be captured at dawn. Pay attention to the impact. Niu Qiudong took his daughter and turned around to leave. Li Jinhai took Wei Qiang away. At this time, Cheng Jin took a deep breath and said. Huan Yunbiao and Sun Ziohe from the 8th district are rewarded for their courageous actions. Tu Xiao, as the manager of the security group, made such a fuss in the 8th district. He deserves to be punished. The merits and demerits are equal to each other. Let's get away with it. It's in the middle of the night. What's the fuss about? After saying this, Cheng Jin picked up the electric bike that Li Jinhe had left behind, got on the bike and disappeared at the end of the road. In fact, he had come a long time ago. He came with Li Jinhe. He was hiding in the crowd waiting for an opportunity to give Niu Qiudong no escape. Your daughter can no longer work as a civil servant. How will you pave the way? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 681. Han Qian's hand was simply treated. Li Jinhe and Qianling made sure that nothing was wrong and left one after another. The nursery rhymes disappeared, leaving Yates alone. Han Qian looked down at his bandaged wrist and left hand and whispered softly. Road. Where are the nursery rhymes? Yates sat next to Han Qian, looked down at the tablet, and replied in a low voice. I said I was sleepy and went home to sleep. Mayor Cheng called me just now and asked me to stop fussing about this matter for the time being. He said that expelling Niu Xiahua from the party has ended Niu Qiudong's heir apparent. Han Qian thought about it carefully, and it was right to say that it would be difficult for Niu Qiudong to climb up at this age. He would put more efforts and resources on Niu Xiahua, even if Niu Xiahua didn't know anything. Without ability, her father Niu Qiudong's ability can still allow her to take the leadership position. But now that she was expelled from the party, she was kicked out, and no amount of resources or connections could fall on her shoulders. She could no longer become a member of the Yeomanmen. With Cheng Jin watching over him, it would be impossible for Niu Qiudong to take the back door. Han Qian raised his head and looked at Yates, wondering. Why didn't Niu Qiudong's daughter and Lin Men's son get together? Yates turned his head, stretched out his hand and pinched Han Qian's face, and said with hatred. My Mr. Han, can you not use your brain at all when you don't use it? Niu Qiudong is the secretary, and Lin Mend is the largest businessman in the city. If the children of their two families come together, do you think they will be regarded as a simple love and marriage? No one is a fool, Lin Mend thought, but Niu Qiudong is not willing. To be precise, he does not dare. What? Government officials and businessmen cannot intermarry, so my father-in-law and mother-in-law. Your mother-in-law has been semi-retired not long after she got married. Forget it. I won't tell you any more. Is your hand healed? I'll take you home. How can I get better so soon? It just doesn't hurt anymore. If you can let me. No, don't think about it, get out. Yates's answer was very straightforward. Han Qian got up and followed Yates out of the hospital. When he went out, he looked back at the big words of the hospital and wondered if it was really half a membership card. It would be cheaper to come next time. How about at least a 15% discount? It was already 1 o'clock when he got home. Han Qian opened the door and saw that the lights in the living room were still on. Nuan was nestled on the sofa watching TV. Han Qian was slightly panicked. He hurriedly hid his hands behind his back, changed his shoes and whispered. It's not that I won't tell you. It happened suddenly. I didn't expect these people to come back and fight for me. I called my mother at that time. When Nuan stood up, the girl's legs were the most beautiful of all the girls Han Qian had ever seen. She walked up to Han Qian, gently took off his coat and whispered. Why are you hiding your hands? You are successful by walking by the river, so your path will be accompanied by risks. I will not cause trouble for you. I can only silently pray that you can come back safely. Mom called me. Said that the nursery rhyme was very angry at the time, which is good. Someone will take care of you when I am not around you. Han Qian panicked when he heard this and said quickly. My mother knows nursery rhymes and does it. Shhh. It's our mother. I already knew about the nursery rhyme. We both ate the dumplings today. Did you burn a hole in the palm of your hand? Wen Nuan grabbed Han Qian's left hand and Han Qian smiled. No, it's just a slight burn. It's not serious. I was just a little angry at the time. Nuan pulled Han Qian to sit on the sofa, then walked into the kitchen and took out a plate of dumplings and placed it in front of Han Qian. Han Qian picked up the plate and asked Nuan if he was jealous. Nuan was watching TV, and Han Qian was eating dumplings. Compared with the dumplings filled with apple fillings, these 3 fresh shrimp dumplings can be said to be delicious. As he was eating, Han Qian suddenly looked up and asked, "Xiao Nuan, how much does it cost to clean and maintain that McLaren car from the inside out? How much does it cost to repaint it?" Nuan tilted his head and thought about it, frowning. Some luxury cars can only be returned without being exchanged, but the paint has peeled off. What about the others? There was a hole in the side and 2 holes in the roof. It's tens of thousands of yuan. If it's serious, you can almost buy a domestic car. I'll take a look at the car tomorrow and let your contact repair it. Or you can just find a domestic one to repair it. Isn't Qianwan interested now? Will Qinghe give you that GTR? Let's switch it over and drive it. Picking up the dumplings and stuffing them into his warm mouth, Han Qian frowned. Why should I drive that thing? I feel arrogant. Besides, the difference between the 2 cars is more than 2 million. How can I say it? Are you embarrassed to have hit someone else's car? Besides, the GTR in Qinghe is also a new model and has only been driven for more than 10,000 kilometers. It's up to you. Just tell me how you want to fix it. Where is the car now? Woolen cloth. I'm in District 8. I'll ask Qianwan tomorrow. Forget it. I won't ask, just use it like this. If you hire someone to repair your car, we all have to know how much it costs. Do you still want to eat? I won't eat if you don't. Have eaten. I'm eating one, Han Qian. Let's play some games, gold miners, or something. I was talking after I took a shower. You will rub my back for a while. I always feel like there is gasoline on my body. After saying this, Wen Nuan got up and walked into the bathroom. After a while, he showed his head and asked, "Why did you come in naked?" "Throw me a towel, I'm not used to being naked." In the bathroom, Wen was holding a bath towel, and Han Qian was sitting on the bench with his back to Wen. Wen was washing Han Qian's hair with a small brush, and her head was covered with foam. She enjoyed it and whispered that it was like this in cartoons. Acting, Han Qian retorted that people don't use shoe brushes. Let the warmth run wild. While rubbing his back, Han Qian spoke softly. Can you please try harder? Aren't you going to eat dumplings tonight? Shut up. I'm afraid it will hurt you. Harder. It's like you're scratching an itch. After saying this, Nuan threw down the bath towel and walked out of the bathroom. Han Qian thought the girl was angry. Then when Nuan walked into the bathroom, Han Qian huddled in the corner and said tremblingly, I was wrong. Everything is the villain's fault. This thing is for washing pots? Not for rubbing backs. When Nuan held the steel ball and gritted his teeth at Han Qian and growled. Don't you think it's boring? I'll rub it for you now. Come here. Han Qian leaned against the tiles and said with a trembling voice. I can't. It's so warm I'm injured, I can't rub it like this. You know you're injured and you still let me use force? Come here. I'll use a bath towel. When Nuan squatted behind Han Qian, looked at the intricate knife edge, and whispered. Han Qian, go get a tattoo. Get a tattoo of the 1,000-armed Guanyin. Han Qian looked down at his feet and said softly. I can't bear it. King Hu asked me to get a tattoo on my arm. I was afraid that the old man would beat me to death, so I didn't dare to go. How about I get a tattoo on you? After saying this, Nuanuan went to get the steel ball. Han Qian said quickly. You corrupt rich woman. What did you call me? Corrupt rich woman. Finally, Han Qian rushed to the second floor with a bath towel. He couldn't do it anymore. It really didn't work anymore. This girl's forehead was so hard. After going up to the second floor, Han Qian yelled at Wen Nuan and asked when the furniture for the second bedroom would come. Wen Nuan told Han Qian that he didn't know and would only find out after calling him tomorrow. And then when Han Qian went downstairs to go to the guest room to sleep, he was blocked by the warmth on the stairs. I sent the bedding in the guest room to be washed. Do you want to sleep on the wooden bed? Go back and sleep. Han Qian looked at Wen Nuan suspiciously and said something very stupid. I suspect you want to sleep with me, but I have no proof, so you don't dare. Got beaten. Han Qian was beaten by the rider underneath him. He avoided his vital points with punches and palms. The crisp sound of slaps echoed in the bedroom. Han Qian slowly fell asleep. Looking at the sleeping man under him, Nuan gritted his teeth in anger and took out Open Baidu on your mobile phone. How to treat my husband who always sleeps. Just after taking a few glances, Nuan found that his eyelids couldn't be opened. He whispered that the disease might be contagious, but he didn't know that it was almost 3 o'clock. Early in the morning, Han Qian was woken up by his cell phone. Just as he was about to get up, he heard a bang. The cell phone was thrown out of the bedroom by Wen Nuan. It was quiet this time. Han Qian glanced at Wen who was sleeping with his eyes closed, took a deep breath, and then he lay down and continued to sleep. When he got up, the warmth was gone. The mobile phone also appeared on the bed, and it seemed that it hadn't been broken yet. Looking at the dozen missed calls on his phone, Han Qian got up, washed and dressed and went out. At this time, the phone rang again. Han Qian answered the call and frowned. Lin Zongheng, are you sick? You started calling me early in the morning. Are you going to stop? Lin Zongheng said angrily on the phone. Han Qian. You designed to frame a little girl like this, how dare you do it? Framed. Han Qian sneered and replied. Framed? Can you do it? You can even kill your fiancé, why can't I hold a negligent person accountable? My wife doesn't know about this yet. If she knew, Niu Ziahua would go to jail. What? Lin Zongheng roared angrily. Do you know how serious it is that she was expelled from the party? You just faced 2 killers, and she lost her whole life's future. You, don't show your fandom culture in front of me. You are forcing me, and I will slap you. Believe it or not. I'm going to work. Get away as far as you can. It's not over yet between us. You said exactly what I wanted to say, Han Qian. We're not done yet. Han Qian hung up the phone directly and curled his lips. What the hell? Wearing a helmet and riding a motorcycle, he didn't have a car to drive. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 682. When he walked into the general department, Han Qian was carrying a small bamboo basket filled with various snacks. Ignoring the wolf-like eyes of the general department, Han Qian directly placed the small bamboo basket on Qian Wan's table. Said with a smile on his face. Big money. Accident. It's all an accident. Qian Wan turned her head and looked at Han Qian with confusion in her eyes. Then she glanced at the small bamboo basket and said doubtfully. Brother, what's wrong with you? Han Qian scratched his head in embarrassment. Sudden. A hand appeared in the small bamboo basket. Suliang took a bag of potato chips and smiled. Your brother hit your car in District 8 last night. It is said. It is said that there was a big hole in the side of the car. This guy opened it and ate it? Han Qian looked at Su Liang doubtfully. He didn't need to ask, because the latter had already answered. I also received a call last night, but I didn't call you. Isn't it a big deal? Han Qian stretched out his bandaged left hand, and Su Liang shrugged. At this time, Qian Wan came back to his senses, stood up and took a few bags of snacks from the small bamboo basket, and then told everyone to feel free to do it, no need to give it to brother Qian. Save money and he will be rich. Qian Wan said as he threw the snacks to his colleagues. I thought it was such a big deal. If you hit me, you'll hit me, my brother. Not to mention it was a car collision, what could you do if you just drove into the river? Sister-in-law King Hu gave away 2 cars in one go. That crappy thing of mine crashed when it hit me. If you're too lazy to fix it, just give it to brother Liang to play with. I drive the GTR quite comfortably, so don't let me take it. When the words came out, Su Liang quickly refused. No. I really like my little Mercedes-Benz. That thing of yours belongs to a tiger that drinks oil. Qianer can keep it for himself. Han Qian's face was full of confusion. When he opened his mouth again, Qian Wan stuffed him with a bag of potato chips. Go, 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 you two go over there to eat. I'm watching the live broadcast to review their sales. Brother Qianer, Sister Yang was looking for you this morning. Go, go, go. What Han Qian regarded as a top priority came to Qian Wan's place instead of watching the live broadcast. Han Qian felt uncomfortable no matter what he thought, and then Su Liang put his arm around his shoulders and took him out to smoke. There was a can filled with water at the door of the bathroom on the 11th floor. Su Liang smiled when he saw this. The cleaning lady is sensible. After saying this, he threw a cigarette to Han Qian, and the two stood at the door of the men's bathroom blowing smoke. The colleagues passing by all moved out of the way, as if they saw 2 gods of plague. Su Liang held a cigarette in his mouth and took out his mobile phone and handed it to Han Qian. Look, you called me last night to ask if I could help you with a favor. The benefits will come from me. Han Qian took one look and smiled. Did you hear who it was? No. I asked him who he was but he didn't tell me, and then I hung up the phone. Why are there so many people troubling you now? Are you too old? I don't know. 2 guys suddenly rushed out and wanted to kill me. Damn it, I forgot to ask if you didn't tell me. Another guy ran away. After saying this, Han Qian took out his mobile phone and looked for Li Jinhai's number. The call was quickly connected. The second uncle's voice was a little tired and told Han Qian that he had been caught. Don't worry. He was going to interrogate. Li Jinhai answered the phone quickly and hung up quickly. Han Qian hung up the phone without saying a word. He blew out a puff of smoke. Han Qian curled his lips and said softly. There are still 4 people running outside now, Feng Lungkailai and 2 people whose names I don't know. What did Sister Yang want to see me for this morning? Su Liang smiled. It's nothing. I guess I heard that you were injured last night. The general department is currently working on the tourist area. Can you give me some advice? Just follow the plan. You don't have to go to the construction site anyway. I'm going to see Mr. Yan and tell Sister Yang that there's nothing wrong with me. No. The two separated in front of the bathroom door. One went to the elevator and the other returned to the general department. Han Qian knew clearly that if Su Liang wanted to make money, his bank card would have a deposit of 6 zeros in a year, but he did not do so. Has been playing the role of a handyman. Arriving at the door of Yan Qingqing's office, little Yang Jia opened her arms. Brother Qianer, you have to bribe me, and then I will tell you a secret. Seeing the serious look on the little girl's face, Han Qian took out 200 yuan from his wallet and put it on the table, frowning. What a secret! Xiao Yangjia put away the money and took a deep breath, with confusion in her eyes. Han Qian's eyes became cold. Could it be that this guy Tang Wei is back? When he was about to ask, Yang Jia spoke. The secret is that you were deceived by me. Han Qian breathed a sigh of relief, glared at little Yang Jia, and flicked the girl's head twice. The little girl was in pain and wanted to fight Han Qian desperately. While she was looking for a guy, Han Qian pushed the door open and walked in. Yan Qingqing in the office. Yan Qingqing raised her head and looked at Han Qian. This scene has been repeated countless times. Every time Han Qian comes here, he will play with Xiao Yangjia, winning or losing. Yan Qingqing is too lazy to care. Han Qian goes to the desk and picks up the file Yan Qingqing is working on. Glanced at it, and said softly. What? Are you really planning to open a hotel in Longhua too? I see that Nuan is also preparing for this plan recently. How long will you two keep fighting? Aren't you tired? Yan Qingqing leaned back in her chair and laughed softly. Why are you tired? Just like Guan Yunbiao said, how can the East and West palaces live in harmony? In addition, I also know one thing. Is it right for Wen Nuan and Yates to build a villa? Han Qian, you are holding this bowl of water, it's quite peaceful. Are you afraid that we will get angry with you because of the uneven reward? Han Qian sat on his desk and picked up another document. The next second, he was pushed down by Yan Qingqing. Han Qian said helplessly. I'll just sit down for a while. You sit here with me. Yan Qingqing pulled Han Qian and pressed him on the boss's chair. Han Qian looked at Han Qian's Yan Qingqing and said doubtfully. Then you stand. I'll sit on your lap. Without giving Han Qian a chance to refuse, Yan Qingqing had already sat on Han Qian's lap, and was still facing Han Qian. Yan Qingqing put her arms around Han Qian's neck, lowered her head and looked at the man she loved, and said softly. Han Qian. When did you prepare the plan for the warm villa? If she had not left Changxiang, would you have let me leave Glory to take over Huishan Group? Han Qian scratched his head in embarrassment. Yan Qingqing grabbed his arm and put it on his waist. Han Qian sighed and said softly. No, if Nuan doesn't take over Huishan, I will ask Tu Xiao to take over, and even ask Aunt Jian to give you 25% of her shares, and exchange the 25% with you for the entire complex department. Qianwan will take over as chairman of Huishan Group. Yan Qingqing lowered her head to Han Qian's forehead and whispered. Why? Are you worried that I don't have the ability? The foundation of glory has been laid very solidly. If you leave, all your previous efforts will be in vain. After all, you alone have the final say in glory now. There are not many opportunities. Okay. Go down quickly, and you will be taken care of in a moment. What's going on when you see it? Yan Qingqing hugged Han Qian's neck and said softly. I don't. If you see it, you will see it. What's wrong with me and my man making out? Don't say I'm not afraid to see it. I wish everyone could see it. I'm afraid. Be good. Then kiss me. Han Qian held Yan Qingqing's face and kissed her forehead. Yan Qingqing raised her head and pointed at her lips. Han Qian smiled helplessly. As soon as he raised his head, Yan Qingqing's passionate kiss had already fallen, and Han Qian became passive. Lady Yasha has an impatient personality and doesn't like to procrastinate in anything. Just as the two were kissing, the office door was pushed open. Mr. Yan, Manager Song cough. Mr. Yan. Yan Qingqing let go of Han Qian and turned to glare at little Yang Jia. At this moment, Yan Qingqing looked like a lioness enjoying its prey. Little Yang Jia was so frightened that she kept retreating and lowered her head and whispered. Here Mr. Yan, it's Manager Song who wants to resign. I've put the resignation letter here. I'm leaving first. Little Yang Jia put the letter on the bucket of the water dispenser at the door, turned around and was about to run away. Yan Qingqing frowned, stood up, straightened her skirt, and said coldly. Come back. Song Jing wants to resign? Didn't I say I won't approve it? Where is she? Call over. Xiao Yangjia lowered her head and whispered back. Manager Song doesn't dare to come. You won't catch her? What's the use of you? If you bother me every time, your salary will be halved this month. You're fined. As soon as the words came out, Xiao Yangjia's face collapsed, and she felt aggrieved and was about to cry. At this time, Han Qian said with a smile. It's okay, I'll make it up for you. Let her dunk it. Go and call Manager Song over, I'm here. Xiao Yangjia lowered her head and whispered. Thank you, Brother Qianer. Mr. Yan, I know I was wrong. I'll go ask Manager Song. After Xiao Yangjia left, Han Qian asked softly if Song Jing was the woman from the personnel department. Yan Qingqing nodded, sat sideways on Han Qian's lap again, and sighed softly. Now the company has more and more work, and the human resources department is also busy. Mainly because she is pregnant, and many people in the company are eyeing her position. They dare not ask for maternity leave to embarrass me, so I thought of resigning altogether. I agreed to let her, she's on vacation, and I just don't understand what's going on in a woman's head. Han Qian leaned back and frowned. You're not a woman. Believe it or not, it's bigger than you when I take it out. Han Qian's face is full of black lines. He doesn't like to make pornographic jokes, except for Yates. Not long after, Song Jing walked into the office with a folder in both hands. Looking at her bulging belly, Yan Qingqing glared at Han Qian. This look frightened Han Qian to lose most of his soul. She wants children? Yan Qingqing turned her head and frowned at Song Jing. What are you doing? I didn't know it was you when you hid your face. The company has been on maternity leave for 3 months, and now you are taking a break. Why don't you come back to work after the new year? Are you going to resign? Song Jing took down the document in her hand and said weakly with her eyes exposed. Mr. Yan, I will be away during this period. What a bullshit. Do you believe that I asked you to work all the time, and I am looking for some midwives to watch you 24 hours a day? Now you start taking leave, you are allowed to work from home, and your assistant also goes to your home to work with you. I love you. I will give you a gift of 10,000 yuan as a gift when you have a baby. You, Yang Lan, and Ji Jing have been with me for so many years, and I will definitely not allow you to resign. I threw away your resignation letter, go home and lie down. Mr. Yan. What? Glory makes you uncomfortable. Without. Then don't be ink-stained. That settled the matter. How about you go back first? It won't be easy for me to catch Han Qian once. Yan Qingqing's tone suddenly became gentle. Song Jing glanced at Han Qian, nodded helplessly and left. When she went out, she still thought, how could these two people who attack each other get together? Yan Qingqing ignored Song Jing's thoughts, turned around and sat across Han Qian's lap, whispering. Han Qian, I also want to take maternity leave. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 683. Han Qian said weakly. You take maternity leave, let's not say whether you can take it or not. If you take it, then it's up to you to fulfill your promise here. Aren't you afraid of being taken away from your power? Yan Qingqing hugged Han Qian's neck, pouting and muttering softly. As long as you help me get it back. What? I am omnipotent. After saying this, Yan Qingqing nodded vigorously. In my heart, you are an omnipotent and indomitable man. Han Qian, let's have a baby for fun. Then I will stop quarreling with Wen Nuan and take care of the baby at home. At this point, Yan Qingqing suddenly looked at Han Qian, frowned and said seriously. No, if the child is trained to be like me, it will be useless. You will take care of the boys and girls and learn from their father. Han Qian, I want a child. Empress Yasha shook Han Qian's neck and began to act coquettishly. Han Qian really couldn't resist. When he saw Song Jing's belly, he also had the idea of having a child in his mind. The idea passed in a flash. He still couldn't resist it? He couldn't, all dangers were not eliminated, and the child would distract him. He hugged Yan Qingqing's waist and said softly, "We will talk about the child later. Now all the troubles have not been resolved. I am worried that these people will do something to my child. I'll take you to America. My child will never go abroad in this life. Our country is so big, it's enough for him to play. Okay. Stop making trouble and deal with the work." Ah! Han Qian, child, child. Yan Qingqing started to make trouble. This was the first time Han Qian saw Yan Qingqing making trouble. She was quite good at this and comforted her for more than half an hour. Yan Qingqing temporarily gave up the idea of having a child, but then she had an idea. Get the certificate. Han Qian sighed feebly. You hope I won't die. Leader Niu from the Yamanmen took a break after so many years on the job. He even took a break when he was extremely busy. Cheng Jin was sitting in the office, looking at the roof with a cigarette in his mouth, squinting his eyes and taking a puff of the cigarette. Niu Qiudong, can't he handle the pressure anymore? You should never have helped Lin Zonghong catch Han Qian. Exhaling a puff of smoke, Cheng Jin sighed softly. In fact, he didn't want to touch Niu Qiudong, and even said that Cheng Jin had never targeted anyone in the Yamanmen. He had been doing his job, catching corrupt officials and focusing on political achievements. Since the Feng Lun incident, the corrupt officials he had caught there were more than he could count on both hands, and he knew this was far from over. Niu Qiudong's daughter Niu Xiahua had an incident. Before Go De Peo attacked Han Qian at the resort, she lost her gun. Due to Niu Qiudong's ability in the city, the incident was quickly suppressed, and Niu Xiahua also got a painless punishment. Suspension pending. 3 months later, she returned to her job, but this time she became a traffic policeman. Everyone knew that Niu Qiudong wanted to reinstate Officer Niu Xiahua after the storm stopped, but he did not expect that Niu Xiahua would be at this juncture. Han Qian was provoked. Unintentional. Who the hell believes that? Thinking about how he wanted Niu Xiahua to be Han Qian's secretary before, Cheng Jin felt like a fool. King Hu was the most correct choice. But Niu Xiahua is said to be related to these two gangsters. There is no evidence that there is a relationship, and there is no evidence that there is no relationship. Cheng Jin has always wondered whether Feng Lun's gun was given to him by Feng's Haida. Feng's Haida's suicide in prison was already suspicious. Niu Qiudong and Lin Mend. Cheng Jin sat up and gave himself a slap in the face. Everything must be based on evidence and not suspicion. Then Cheng Jin smiled. Niu Qiudong, the last thing you should do in your life is to throw Han Qian into prison. Changed. Changed. After 2 shouts, the permanent secretary opened the door and walked in, saying respectfully, "You are looking for me." Cheng Jin stood up, picked up his clothes and said calmly, "Go and have a look and see if the 2 gangsters have confessed. Is it true that Niu Qiudong is not coming today? Where is he now? At home. He's very calm. He is a leader, that's for sure. Oh, we only arrest corrupt officials, regardless of official position. You are a good man." Me? I'm not a good person. I can't do that. Go and find out what Niu Qiudong has done to benefit the people in the past few years. In addition, send all the information Niu Xiahua has done to Han Qian and tell him this bastard should make some contribution to Binhai City. If he can't do it, he'll be hung up and beaten. Changde nodded awkwardly, went downstairs and got in the car. Changde couldn't help but ask. You agreed to the mountain villa plan jointly developed by Changrong Group and Yashig? You let these capitalists make money again. Chang Jin stretched out his hand and slapped Chang De on the head, laughing and scolding. You know nothing. When capitalists make money, they also bring about the economy. Our citizens in Binhai City are not poor, they just have less places to spend money. In addition, the villa mainly earns money from outsiders for our Binhai City. People get paid and spend money in the city, forget it. You don't understand even if I tell you, just drive. Chang curled his lips secretly and muttered softly. Actually, you don't understand. It was Yates from Yezai Pavilion who said it. Deputy Secretary Chang, this Yates is really powerful. She is also a secretary. I want to become her teacher. Chang Jin smiled. I have no objection. I can help you find a connection, but don't think too much about it. The relationship between Yates and Han Qian is not very clear. Chang chuckled. You know, Quan Daegu in the 8th district said that Dongwen is the empress of the East Palace, Dongyan is the empress of the West Palace, and our Xiaoqinghu princess. These three girls stand on three sides, and no one can do anything to the other. The rest, that Principal Tong who made Niu Qiudong unable to come to the stage last night, Principal Tong was not like this before, she is quite smart, and I also know one thing. I know too. Don't talk too much, otherwise Han Qian will fight me hard, and I won't be able to withstand the anger of this little brat. Drive. What are you waiting for? I forgot, this is not nonsense. Chang started the car and left the Yamanman's courtyard, and the two of them spoke at the same time. Which girl do you think Han Qian will marry in the end? Which girl do you think Han Qian will marry? When the words came out, the two of them were slightly stunned, and then turned to look out the window at the same time. They are also a very cute couple. In Niu Xiaohua's two-story apartment, she hugged her legs and sat on the sofa on the second floor watching TV. She didn't know why her father didn't protect her this time. She was expelled from the party overnight and would never be able to live in the party again in this life. To be a civil servant, I don't understand why my father would compromise the old fox's conditions this time. Lin Zongheng lay on the rocking chair on the balcony and closed his eyes to rest, feeling drowsy. Niu Xiaohua couldn't help but ask. Zongheng, why? Lin Zongheng turned his head and said doubtfully. What why? I asked why I was expelled from the party. Why did this old fox Chang Jin speak for that Han Qian? If he hadn't spoken, someone who stopped me from leaving last night would have been an assault on the police. In the end, it's not necessarily who is at fault, why? Niu Xiaohua's face was full of confusion and anger. Lin Zongheng curled his lips and smiled when he saw this. Your status is not low, but your IQ is really not high. I don't understand why you want to take the initiative to provoke Han Qian. From the time Han Qian appeared last year to now, Feng Lun is the only one who has taken advantage of him. Let alone helping me vent my anger. I can't bear the favor of a rich lady like you. I'm just helping you vent your anger. Warmth. Luo Shen. Now that you're walking with Han Qian, aren't you angry? I feel worthless for you. Then you gave the gun to Go De Peo. Fortunately, Go De Peo is dead, Niu Xiaohua. Cheng Jin is right, you should still raise flowers and plant grass. Don't say you like me. Your father can do it, kill me. I just like you. Lin Zongheng closed his eyes and ignored this woman with an abnormal mind. Was Lu Shenga schizophrenic? Han Qian is a mad dog. Wrong. Everything is wrong, this Niu Xiaohua is the craziest one. She resented Han Qian for bullying Lin Zongheng, resented Han Qian for bullying his father, and resented Han Qian for bullying Uncle Lin, who was kind to her. On the first floor of the apartment, Niu Qiudong was smoking a cigarette with his eyes closed, and Lin Mend beside him said lightly. Xiaohua is really helpless this time. Can't we let those two gangsters bite Han Qian, a little beast. Niu Qiudong shook his head, closed his eyes and sighed. Hey! If I could, I would still have such a headache. Counting these two, a total of 6 were caught. Zhang Gang, nicknamed Toad, insisted that Han Qian had nothing to do with them, and he didn't know Feng Lun. Later, Zhang was caught taking drugs. Song Ye has repeatedly proven that he has nothing to do with Han Qian, and now even if these 4 people bite him, Han Qian is not guilty, because Toad is one of the masterminds, and they are not. Having said this, Niu Qiudong took a deep breath before speaking. Xiao Hua's gun was lost once, and it hasn't been found yet. Li Jinghai, a person who doesn't get into things like oil and salt, is very taboo about this kind of thing. Now it's fine. She has nothing to do to provoke Han Qian. It's a damn coincidence. Why is she here? At that time, 2 evil stars came out. Not to mention that last night Cheng Jin said he would be expelled from the party. Even if Xiao Hua was thrown into prison, I would have to suffer. This black-faced fox has begun to doubt me. You seem to be very sad recently. I understand why you went to take over the shares from the little girl of the Wen family at this time. Lin Mend laughed at himself. I was driven to a dead end by this little beast. I didn't expect that he would dare to kidnap Wei Tiancheng in front of everyone. If Wei Tiancheng is caught and we are both done, I dare not buy it. Find me someone now. The company's money has to block the way to borrow money, so I can't get a loan from a bank. I don't know. I'm thinking about how to get rid of these 2 guys, Cheng Jin and Han Qian, so that your son and my daughter can be more stable recently. You should destroy everything related to you. It's best to find Wei Tiancheng. He is interested in you or in danger. Feng Lun is by his side. Do you think the little beast has no backup plan? You father and son shouldn't have the idea of taking action against Luo Shen. How much effort have I put into bringing them together? Oh, you still want to make your daughter give up? Let's not talk about each other. Once we survive this period, everything will be settled. Let's say goodbye. Lin Men stood up, and Lin Zongheng also came downstairs at this time. The 2 left the apartment and got into the car. Lin Men said solemnly. Zongheng, find a way to make some money. The company's debt needs to be closed. Today, Lin Men has taken the same path that Han Qian took 4 years ago. Embezzlement of public funds. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, A Huan. Chapter 684. Lin Zongheng couldn't figure out when he started to fall into Han Qian's trap. Not long ago, he was still dreaming about the success of his plan, letting everyone know that he, Lin Zongheng, was the most powerful one. Even if the assassination of Luo Shen failed later, when Nuan left Changxiang. This was what the father and son had dreamed of. But now that something happened, they already had absolute control over Changxiang, but they couldn't be happy. Everything seemed to come to an end. Too fast and problems may arise. Lin Zongheng knew that he had to invest in some industries now, otherwise the misappropriation of the company's money would be discovered soon. The Lin family and his son were dealing with the trouble at hand. The shares they took from Wen Nuan would not be mortgaged at 150% to anyone. It might be 90% or even 80%. While the father and son were in a state of distress, Han Qian was already studying where to go. In fact, Han Qian wanted to take Aunt Ji out for fun. In recent days, Aunt Ji had been refusing with various reasons, or even without any reason. Han Qian spent the night at her house. Although it was not yet ready, such a rejection frustrated Han Qian's somewhat proud heart. So, this guy is asking Ji Jing to hang out? There is no way to come back on the same day. Aunt Ji. The company is working overtime during the National Day holiday. Mr. Yan said that we will take turns to take off after National Day. Let's go out and have fun. Travel, relax, take photos, and hold hands. At noon, Han Qian stayed in Ji Jing's office, lying on the table and wiping the table with his face. Ji Jing placed her chin on the table with her fists in her hands. The distance between the two was no more than 10 centimeters. Aunt Ji said softly, "Where do you want to play? I don't like going out. It's so tiring. Besides, it's cold in this season to go to the beach and hot to go hiking. There's no place to play nearby. Hey, the table is dirty, look at your face." Han Qian put his right hand on his chin, looked at Ji Jing and whispered, "Let's go to the glass boardwalk, and then go see the red beach, or go to the zoo to see the elephants, and Ji, let's go play." Ji Jing said softly, "I'm afraid of heights." "Then how about we go to the zoo and then to the aquarium? Just promise me." In front of Ji Jing, it is really difficult for Han Qian to maintain a mature and cold attitude. As long as he sees Ji Jing, he can't help but act coquettishly. He knows that Ji Jing is the most addicted to this. Sure enough, Aunt Ji sat up. He tilted his head and thought for a moment, then whispered back, "Well, either go to Dalian or the capital. The capital seems to be closer, I'll check it out, okay? Stop annoying me." "Good." Han Qian hurriedly sat up straight, then thought about it and stood up and walked behind Ji Jing, squeezing the gentle girl's shoulders with both hands. Looking at Ji Jing's serious inquiry, Han Qian lowered his head and asked in a low voice, "Aunt Ji, won't it sink?" Ji Jing was stunned for a moment, then blushed and lowered her head to take a look, then turned to Han Qian and nodded vigorously, saying weakly, "Shen, I will put it on the table when no one is around." Suddenly, Han Qian felt his nose warm, and a drop of bright red fell on Ji Jing's shoulder. For a moment, both of them were stunned. Han Qian raised his head and ran out, covering his nose. Ji Jing covered her mouth and laughed, and whispered something. Han Qian, who was hopeless and walked to the door, turned around and told Ji Jing, "We'll set off tomorrow morning. I'll take you there on my motorcycle. Go and stop the bleeding." Han Qian ran away. He didn't know why he had a nosebleed. He had done everything he needed to see and touch. How could he get a nosebleed after just hearing a word? Han Qian ran all the way back to the general department. "Sister Yang, Sister Yang, Sister Yang, I have a nosebleed." People who are cared about often lose some ability to take care of themselves. After a while, 2 small paper balls appeared on Han Qian's nose. Yang Ian's cold hand pressed on his forehead. Yang Lan also felt a little strange. The weather is not hot now, and Han Qian is not that lustful. "How come you have a sudden nosebleed with your character?" Yang Lan was a little worried about Han Qian and asked Han Qian softly if the doctor said his head was fine during the last checkup. After hearing this, Han Qian turned his head and looked at Yang Lan with a resentful look in his eyes. "I'm not sick." After saying this, Yao Shui chuckled. "Brother Qianer, go get a CT scan. If you are sick, I will come and use PS to do it for you and you will be fine." Han Qian slammed the table and exclaimed, "Wolong is actually by my side. Sister Shui, you are amazing. Come on, let me take you to the hospital. Brother Qianer, stop making trouble, you're at work." At this moment, Han Qian was in a good mood. He stood up and hummed a little tune and left the general department. He said that he was going to Mr. Yan to apply for subsidies for them. In fact, he didn't necessarily have to go anywhere. He had already said half of the application for subsidies. It's been months, and Yan Qingqing still doesn't know about this. After leaving the door, he took a cigarette with his left hand, and then the cleaning aunt appeared behind him, staring at Han Qian all the way to Gao Xingxing's office on the 10th floor before leaving. In desperation, Han Qian pushed open the door of Gao Xingxing's office. This time, he didn't see the sexy scene, but saw a few familiar faces. Luo Shanda, Wu Siguan, and Lu Guangming were fighting against the landlords. Han Qian closed the door, lit a cigarette and frowned. "You three are free? Come here to fight the landlord." As soon as he finished speaking, he slapped the fish tank. The two fish inside were frightened by Han Qian and ran around, and Mad Dog Han muttered in a low voice, "I'm still at work, how can you sleep?" These words were full of resentment, and then he turned to look at the three of them and frowned. "Lao Luo, are you very free?" Luo Shanda looked at the cards in his hand and nodded. "Luo, on the 11th and 7th day, I have nothing to do." "Siguan, are you also very free?" Wu Siguan threw out two kings, turned around and smiled. "I've been very idle. Recently, Sister Wanwan has become an unusually strong woman and a workaholic. She took all the work in my hands and went to Yates for advice." Han Qian sighed, and then found Lu Guangming looking at him expectantly, as if telling Han Qian, "Ask me quickly," but Han Qian was stunned and didn't asked Gao Xingyi for a fire, and sat next to Luo Shanda looking at the bad cards in his hand. My hands felt a little itchy after looking at them for a while, so I stretched out my hand to grab the cards from Luo Shanda's hand. "You play with me for a while, I'm afraid that your pants will be pressed down here when you lose. You are playing a big game. This one is only 3 or 400. Just as Luo Shanda was about to hand the cards to Han Qian, Gao Xingyi, who was watching a movie with his legs on the desk, spoke. "Don't believe Mr. Han. When he comes to the company, he fights landlords with the security guards downstairs and loses 200 a day." Later Luo Shanda declined Han Qian. "Go away." Han Qian stood up and smiled, leaning against the window sill by the aisle window, and said softly, "I may go to the capital tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. If you have nothing to do at home, I can give you something to do. You don't have to look at me to play. Just listen to what I say. I don't accept refutation, nor do I accept opinions and be unreasonable." Lu Guangming said with a smile. "Going to the capital to meet a big star? Pay attention to your health and don't let your kidneys turn into soybeans." Han Qian shrugged and smiled. "You guys have a good relationship. Now there are almost 4 of you wearing a pair of pants. If you don't trust each other, you probably can't sit together and play cards. If you have some spare money, just join in. I know Lao Luo, your hands have always been a bit hot. Don't dare to touch the money, take this opportunity to wash it and take it out. The 4 of you will form an underground bank, and then find someone like Su Hongchang to manage it." Gao Xingyi frowned slightly, sat up, and said softly, "What are you? Shhh. Listen to me." Han Qian made a silence gesture towards Gao Xingzi and continued. "You can make a small fuss in the early stage, and Tu Xiao will help you build your credit. No matter who borrows the money, as long as he finds you, he will lend it to him. As long as he is from Binhai City, as long as he is from the province, it will be fine, and I will invest for you. For some funds, I forgot to mention that the interest should be the same as or a little higher than the bank interest, and should be kept within 4 times. When it is due, you can collect the debt normally. If someone doesn't pay back, I will ask Feng Lun or Kui Li to go and ask them for it. Money, but you must keep it secret and don't let anyone know that we did it." Lu Guangming put down the playing cards in his hand and asked with a frown. "Brother, I don't ask anything else, just one sentence. Are we pawns that can be discarded at any time in your plan?" Han Qian frowned and smiled. "Is my credibility so low? Now, apart from the 4 of you, the only allies around me are Tu Xiao. I have worked hard to make the 4 of you succeed. Brother, if you ask this, I'm a little sad." Lu Guangming sighed helplessly. "Brother, I also know that this sentence doesn't sound good. It's just that you make us a little scared. Your plans always cover the entire Binhai city silently. I believe you, don't you think it's too much? I'll give you 30 million, give an additional 5 million to this girl Xiao Wu. Luo Shanda stretched out a finger. 10 million, 200 of which will be given to Xiao Wu. Han Qian, I have a total of 13 million in my hand now. This is all my savings and the dividends from last year and a half. I have 10 million and the rest will be given to Si Guan. Lending is the most profitable. I believe you can keep it intact. These three guys used Miss Wu as a shield. Han Qian frowned and smiled after hearing this. You are afraid of a hammer. My wife is a rich woman in the mine. Let me show my sincerity and give you a round number. We are going to have a tug of war for money. The battle line may be a little longer, but I guess there is no risk. After he finished speaking, Han Qian took out his phone and called Cai King Hu. The call was connected instantly, and Han Qian smiled. Madam, please give your husband some money. Cai King Hu seemed to be still sleeping and said vaguely. You have no money again? Hey. From now on, how about I give you a fixed amount of 20,000 yuan every month, so that you won't be embarrassed to ask for money. I want to give it to you but I'm afraid of hurting your self-esteem. Nokia's voice was loud. Han Qian smiled awkwardly at a few people, and then whispered. Madam, I may have used a little too much this time, so I'll calculate the interest. After saying this, Cai King Hu on the other side of the phone suddenly stood up and said seriously. How much do you need? 100 million. Okay. I'll transfer it to you from the bank now. My husband, you finally asked me to get the money. Otherwise, I would be losing money. How about I give you a check? Is 100 million enough? Not much. Do you want some? My husband, it's not easy for you to open your mouth once, just take two. I can't use that much, otherwise I will definitely have enough. Alright. Cai King Hu seemed very excited when she heard that Han Qian was borrowing money. But then she heard that Han Qian only took 100 million, and she felt a little disappointed. After Han Qian hung up the phone, he found that everyone in the room looked at him with a resentful look. Han Qian scratched his head in embarrassment and laughed. What's going on? Why are you looking at me like that? After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 685. In the evening, Nuan did not come back because she wanted to go back to her parents' house. Han Qian was a little lonely and couldn't sleep, thinking that he would go out to play with Aunt Ji tomorrow morning. Han Qian got a little excited thinking about it and took out his mobile phone to send a text message to Ji Jing. The result was that the text message stone sinks into the sea. Aunt Ji didn't even reply. This incident made Han Qian feel unsure. He tossed and turned until 1 o'clock before falling asleep. Early the next morning, Han Qian got up to wash up and put on a set of sportswear. He originally wanted to change his hairstyle, but unfortunately his hair was too short. He went downstairs and rode out of the community. As soon as he reached the entrance of the community, Han Qian suddenly pressed the brakes. The rear wheel of the motorcycle flew into the air, and he almost flew out. Aunt Ji is wearing a white high-collar windbreaker, dark black trousers and a pair of high heels. Her long hair is pulled up high on the back of her head. 2 strands of green silk hang down from her temples and flutter in the wind. She wears beautiful glasses with a small chain. Put on makeup. Very refined. Han Qian got out of the car and walked around Ji Jing to admire it. He took off his gloves and held his chin with one hand and kept tooting. Tisk, 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 my Aunt Ji is very intellectual and a goddess today, no. If you are so beautiful and I go to the capital with you, you will be harassed. Aunt Ji, please wait a moment. There is black oil on my motorcycle, I will put some on it for you. Ji Jing blushed and pulled Han Qian's sleeves and complained. It's not as exaggerated as you said. You won't really ride a motorcycle to the capital, right? Well, you don't seem to have a certificate. You can't get on the expressway. Han Qian held his chin and thought, then turned around and sent the motorcycle back. At this time, Ji Jing's cell phone rang. She answered the call with a smile, but then her face instantly turned gloomy and she said coldly, "What is she going to do? She is going to quarrel with her eldest nephew again." "Who told her?" "I know, I'm waiting for him and I'm going to deliver the car." Seeing Han Qian running over in a hurry, Ji Jing hung up the phone. Han Qian stepped forward and hugged Ji Jing's shoulders, frowning. "Who's calling? I sent you a text message last night. Why didn't you reply?" "Mr. Yan, I was drinking with Yang Lan last night. How about we go by train? It's been a long time since we took the train, my eldest nephew." Aunt Ji started acting coquettishly, and Han Qian smiled stupidly and nodded in agreement. Ji Jing calculated the time very accurately and took Han Qian to the supermarket to buy snacks. She also bought him 2 packs of cigarettes and warned Han Qian not to smoke on the train, as he would be detained. "Then I bought another school bag. The reason was that things in Beijing were too expensive and it was cheaper to buy them at home." Aunt Ji, a good wife and mother. It took less than 20 minutes to get to the station to sell tickets and get on the train. After getting on the train, Aunt Ji took out her notebook and handed it to Han Qian, smiling softly. "I called Mr. Yan and Yang Lan last night and asked them what games you played at the company. Thinking that I would have to take a 3-hour bus ride, I downloaded some for you and see if they are right." But at this time, Han Qian was staring out the window, looking sad and wailing. "I never thought I would see the real hope one day." Ji Jing closed her eyes and took a deep breath weakly, stretched out her hand to move Han Qian's head, and said softly, "There is no train man in this world. The dream was shattered like this." Han Qian hugged Ji Jing and started to grind him. Ji Jing kept knocking off the gangster's outstretched claws. Finally, Han Qian became quiet because the conductor came to remind him not to make any noise. He played the game and explained the plot of the game to Ji Jing. Ji Jing listened very carefully and asked questions from time to time. Han Qian answered patiently. After playing the game for a while, Han Qian felt some eye pain and raised his head and whispered softly, "Road." Finally, I can't hear them arguing anymore. As soon as he finished speaking, a familiar voice reached his ears. "Yan Hu, stay away from me. Why are you slipping on your shoes? Wen Juiying, are you sick? What do you call my slippers?" Han Qian suddenly opened his eyes, then closed them and laughed at himself. "Why am I still hearing hallucinations? MSCAI, can you come over and comment? She won't let me talk about her slippers. It stinks. Yan Hu, can you not wear stockings? I don't care about you two, let's go have some fun. Wen Juiying, you are talking nonsense. I smelled it just now and it has no smell at all. Two ladies, I have an idea." "Shut up, big dog. My feet don't smell. Brother Guan, you better stop interrupting and come on. Let's play a game." Han Qian's brain is about to explode. Auditory hallucinations are absolute hallucinations. They may not have left Binhai City yet. Once they leave Binhai City, they will no longer be able to hear these sounds. Han Qian did not dare to open his eyes and be quiet, nor did he dare to speak. He leaned on Ji Jing's shoulder and fell asleep. Middle. In the dream, Wen Nuan, Yan Qingqing, and Cai Qinghu were wearing black leather clothes and holding whips in their hands, while he was hung on a tree. Yan Qingqing angrily asked him why he didn't take her with him when he went to the capital to play, and then whipped him hit Han Qian's body. This whip woke Han Qian up. He opened his eyes and looked around confusedly. He listened carefully, but he didn't see their shadows or hear any sounds. It's an illusion for sure. Han Qian closed his eyes and breathed a sigh of relief. Why? Then he opened his eyes and saw a pair of big black eyes. Han Qian was so frightened that he stood up and accidentally knocked his leg. Han Qian gritted his teeth in pain. Aunt Ji, can you please stop scaring me? Ji Jing looked at Han Qian with self-blame, stretched out her hand to rub Han Qian's knees, and whispered. I want to ask you if you are hungry. I have prepared snacks for you. I bought tea eggs, which are delicious. Just as Han Qian was about to speak, a warm voice suddenly came from beside him. What? Ji Jing, did you buy snacks? Why didn't you tell me earlier? I'm so hungry that I don't even have the energy to quarrel with Yan Hu. What the hell? Han Qian slowly turned his head and looked at the warmth lying on the back of the chair with his pretty face, and he was stunned. Why is the warmth here? Here is the train. There is absolutely no way she could have gotten into the car halfway. Then Han Qian closed his eyes and whispered. An illusion, definitely an illusion. When Nuan's company is very busy, she doesn't have time. I'm done. I went home last night and asked old Wen to take care of all the things that needed to be done. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? At this moment, Han Qian was determined to give up, and then the cold voice of nursery rhymes came. Nuan, be careful of Su Niangji drugging you. When the words came out, Ji Jing turned around, narrowed her eyes and smiled. Only pharmacists have experience with this kind of thing. Hey, Su Niangji wants to learn? I can teach you. Remember to pay the tuition. Mr. Tong is worried too much. I have no reason to learn this method anymore. Do you want to eat the eggs I have? They are not poisonous. Sorry, I have one too. And I also have dumplings. Nursery rhymes and Ji Jing. When the two of them met, they pinched each other more ferociously than Wen Nuan and Yan Qingqing. At this time, Wen Nuan got up and ran to Ji Jing. He took 2 eggs with a silly smile, and then went to nursery rhyme to get half a box of dumplings. When he returned to his seat, Wen Nuan said with a smile. Do you want to eat the swallow fox? Nonsense. I worked overtime with you all night last night. Don't you know I didn't eat? Shouldn't you be hunting, fox? I recently watched a video where a fox preyed on a hedgehog and then fainted it with its farts before eating it. I know why your feet smell so bad. That's a skunk. Wen Zhuiying, you never went to school, right? Swan skunk? Doesn't it sound good? Warmth and Yan Qingqing. They both had feelings for each other. Han Qian was very lucky that they were the only ones this time, and Yu Shisai and Yates did not come. They come, the security. Han Qian took an egg and just peeled off the skin when a white and tender little hand grabbed the egg. Han Qian tilted his head and looked at the little loli standing in front of him. He made an exaggerated smile and said softly, Road. How many eggs can Bai Bei eat? Xiao Bai Bei glanced at the bag in Ji Jing's hand and sighed. Eat it all, give me a hug from uncle. He picked up Xiao Bai Bei and sat on his lap, saying softly. Where's your mom? Mom is at work. Where's your aunt? Auntie is at work. Who brought you here? Uncle. Han Qian almost asked which aunt said this. If you think about it carefully, you can guess what happened. Ji Jing and Yang Lan had dinner together last night and talked about going to the Beijing aquarium. Yang Lan probably meant she wanted to take Bai Bei but didn't have time, so Ji Jing took on the task. When she was asking for leave, Yan Qingqing was with Nuan, and Nuan told Tong Yao. But where did Guan Yun Biao and Sul Yang come from? Han Qian turned to look at Ji Jing and frowned. Aunt Ji, how did they know that we were going to the capital? Ji Jing shook her head. I don't know, oh. I posted a post on QQ, saying that I was going to have sex with my eldest nephew. Someone must have seen it, What's the matter? Isn't it lively with so many people? Hey. I'm afraid you don't like crowds. I'm okay. I can't stay alone all the time. I have to adapt to a normal life. Seeing Jijing clenching her fists to cheer up, Han Qian smiled, then pointed at Xiao Baibei in his arms and said with a smile. What about her? Jijing pinched Xiao Baibei's cheek and smiled. Sleep with me tonight. I want to learn how to take care of children. When she said this, Jijing looked at Han Qian with burning eyes, who panicked a little. After riding for 3 hours, the train finally arrived. When he got out of the train, Xiao Baibei sat on Han Qian's shoulders, holding his uncle's head and looking around. Wow! Look, uncle, he's so tall. Wow! Uncle, look. Uncle doesn't look. Uncle, look. Uncle doesn't look at it. Wow! What a beautiful lady. Where? As soon as the words came out, Han Qian felt several eyes staring at him. He was so frightened that Han Qian carried Xiao Baibei and ran outside. After leaving the station, Han Qian looked at the bustling capital and took a deep breath. I still like Binhai.